Life-changing moments can arise unexpectedly. 3 moments that stand out for me are, number 1, having had the opportunity to influence a major party politician. Number 2, becoming aware of the existence of a malicious real estate practice that altered this country. And 3, discovering the value of mentors. I hope they interest you. I revere the aspirational tone of the preamble to the Constitution. When I discovered I could address the Texas State Board of Education and advocate for the preamble's posting or recitation in public schools, I jumped at it. Shortly after addressing the board, I had 2 conversations with Dennis Kucinich, who was seeking the Democratic Party nomination for President of the United States. I think these qualify as moments. For the first, Kucinich and I were standing together outside a venue in San Antonio where he was going to speak. I asked him, "Do you know the preamble?" "No," he said. "Please recite it." A few weeks later, Kucinich came to Houston. He produced another moment. He was here to advance his candidacy, and the foundation for his speech was the preamble. I've been unable to find a transcript, but I've written what I think captures his message. With my daughter Amy Weisgal's assistance, here is my oral interpretation.
We, the people of the United States.
This includes all people born or naturalized within our borders and territories, men, women, boys, girls, people of every age group, ethnic and religious background, physical and mental makeup, and attitude. In 2007, neither Kucinich nor anyone else was probably thinking this right was in jeopardy. Today we know it is.
In order to form a more perfect union.
We want a country that strives to be perfect. In 1787, when Governor, that was really his first name, Governor Morris, wrote the preamble, we were unable to do it. But that was our goal then. It should still be our goal today.
Establish justice.
We must treat people fairly in the court system, by the police, citizens as jurors and voters, aliens, everywhere we can.
Ensure domestic tranquility.
From the north to the south, from the east to the west, our goal is to help people get along with each other. Some recent data is encouraging, but violent crime is still significantly higher than in other high-income nations. We must do better.
Provide for the common defense.
When we face external adversaries defensively, we will call upon the military to protect the people and the institutions that serve them.
Promote the general welfare.
I think Kucinich believed, and I certainly do, that promoting the general welfare is the most important responsibility of our government. It means providing food, clothing, shelter, health care, education, services that enable people to fare well.
And secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity.
This includes freedom of speech, including the right to be silent, to not self-incriminate, freedom of assembly and to decide with whom we assemble, the liberty to procreate or to terminate a pregnancy.
Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Kucinich may have ended his speech by saying too often people, including politicians, are oblivious to the preamble. The ACLU has been airing a TV commercial that spotlights it. Maybe Unitarians should do the same. After his speech, we convened on the back porch at KPFT. There I asked him, did I stimulate that? His response, We all get inspired in strange and wondrous ways. Frequently, I ask people if they've ever heard of blockbusting. About 70% say no. Maybe you have, but to get us on the same page, here's what I'm talking about. Blockbusting was a pernicious real estate tactic that was foisted upon Black Americans as early as the 1900s, and it continued until the 1980s. White real estate agencies hired Black people and moved them into homes in all-white neighborhoods. Then these real estate agencies would use scare tactics grounded in racial prejudice. This led to white flight and a depreciation of home values. Sometime in the 1980s, I was in a taxi and struck up a conversation with the Black cab driver. I began, "Have you ever been a cab driver?" "No, I've had lots of jobs." "Me? What was the most interesting?" "Him? I was a blockbuster." Those 4 words changed my life. What was that? Him. I was hired by a white real estate firm. My job involved moving into a home in Riverside Terrace. Please note, Riverside Terrace is located south and west of Texas Southern University and was divided with the construction of the South Freeway, also known as 288. Him. On the night before trash pickup, I was told to throw a party, given money to hire bands, and instructed to buy booze for an open bar. Guests got drunk. On their way home, walking to the bus, they kicked over trash cans. The next day, representatives of the real estate company started knocking on doors, telling neighbors, mostly upper middle class Jewish people, "This is what happens when Black people move into your neighborhood. Sell now and get top dollar. Wait and suffer the consequences." Because of blockbusting's economic effect and the political fallout from it, I believe it influences the direction of our country today. Until people learn this, I believe it will continue to negatively alter the direction of our country. I believe politicians with educational influence intentionally limit its teaching. You've heard of legislation limiting diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is what I'm talking about. How many of you are familiar with the term blockbusting? If you aren't, I hope the following will add up to significant moments. So let me see, by a show of hands, how many of you are, about a third of you, maybe even less. Okay. Since my conversation with that cab driver, here are some things I've learned. The practice of blockbusting was carried out in towns and cities that had any sizable Black population. Data with the exact number of homes or neighborhoods impacted can be obtained. Colleges and universities have not collected it. Here's a quote from AI on the subject. While an exact number is elusive, blockbusting significantly impacted numerous neighborhoods across U.S. cities, especially in Black working class areas like Chicago's West and South Sides, Philadelphia's West Oak Lane, Brooklyn's Bedford-Stuyvesant, and Cleveland's East Side, involving widespread racial turnover through real estate manipulation affecting millions and fueling white flight. Listing those cities barely, in my opinion, scratches the surface. Oops. Prejudice gets passed on from generation to generation and affects how people vote. This is one of the main reasons why this is important today. In 1994, I discovered W. Edward Orser's blockbusting in Baltimore, The Edmondson Village Story. I was oblivious to it while working in and around Edmondson Village. In 2017, University of California law professor Richard Rothstein produced the bestseller, The Color of Law. Google's summary of his book says, in this groundbreaking history of the modern American metropolis, Rothstein explodes the myth that America's cities came to be racially divided through de facto segregation. That is, through individual prejudices, income differences, or the actions of private institutions like banks and real estate agencies. Calling the book groundbreaking is hyperbole. In 1962, the Saturday Evening Book published Confessions of a Blockbuster. The Color of Law makes the case that it was de jure segregation, the laws and policy decisions passed by local, state, and federal governments that actually promoted discriminatory patterns that continue to this day. Because of my cab driver experience that focused on the pernicious activity of a real estate company and not primarily the influence of politicians, I wrote Rothstein. Here, edited, is his 3-page response. Dear Mr. Weisgal, I am gratified that you found The Color of Law informative. The story you tell of the block-busting cab driver is fascinating. I never report stories that I can't confirm. I'm sure that in this case you have no way to confirm it, do you? What do you think of my reporting this story and fully identifying you as the source? If I should do so, I will need a brief biographical paragraph from you. I looked you up. You used to run Leisure Learning Unlimited. I'd like a bit more information about this conversation with the cab driver. The driver didn't identify the real estate company that hired him or her. Did he or she? I did a brief Google search, and it seems that in 1985, a filmmaker, John Schwartz, made a film about the Riverside Terrace neighborhood called This Is Our Home, It Is Not For Sale. The film is about blockbusting, but it is over 3 hours long. I will not have time to track it down and watch it in the near future. If you want to help me do this, you could watch the film. I wish I had time to see if it corroborates the cab driver's story, but I do not. Rothstein ended his letter with, it seems like a fascinating project, however. Of course, I could not relocate the cab driver. I didn't try. In his book, Rothstein describes a woman pushing a stroller in neighborhoods targeted for blockbusting, yet he provides no background information. This is significant because without attribution, Google uses this stroller story to describe a prominent tactic of blockbusting. Still, Rothstein rejected my report since his premise focuses on law and he places most of the blame for blockbusting on politicians. I am critical of this aspect of his book because I believe that greedy real estate brokers were foremost behind blockbusting while politicians played a significant but secondary role. Last week, on Christmas Day, on the front page, the Houston Chronicle published, "Churches Talk Race Amid DEI Cutbacks. congregations work to tackle issues through faith. Initially, the story says, congregates of two nearby Clear Lake churches who were strangers for years now share intimate details of the racial divide that kept them apart, working to overcome the ways prejudice seeped into their worship. The members of Clear Lake's Presbyterian and African Methodist Episcopal churches often rejoice in the progress made since beginning their partnership. But now they say there's a newfound urgency as conservatives attempt to erase the same racial justice movement that inspired them to begin this dialogue. Clear Lake Presbyterian has historically had a predominantly white congregation. Clear Lake African Methodist Episcopal is comprised of black members, and the church was created to worship free from racial discrimination. I haven't had time to research the scope of their curriculum, but I hope these churches see value in weaving the history of blockbusting into their dialogues. I also hope we find out what these churches are doing and consider copying them. The Chicago Federal Board of Trade in 2023 wrote that black families who purchased their properties through blockbusters were charged higher prices and had higher foreclosure rates than new residents that purchased directly from existing property owners. I hope you agree with me that this is both an economic and moral issue we should address. I just lost my place. Da, 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 da. Okay. Drawing again on AI, this is what they say. While there is no exact number, blockbusting affected numerous urban neighborhoods across major U.S. cities like Chicago, New York. Oops. I hope I don't have my pages out of whack. Well, I hope this is right. We don't know because of academic racism, prejudice, pick one. The data hasn't been collected, but we have to believe it's there. We also don't know what percentage of African Americans successfully purchased and retained a home as opposed to losing it through punitive financing and foreclosure, etc., for the same reason. Up till now, I haven't overwhelmed you with data, but I do think numbers reinforce this message. Home ownership in the United States is 78.3% for whites. It is 45.7% for African Americans. As far as I've been able to tell, the answer to the question about black home retention and total number of neighborhoods impacted by blockbusting has not been researched. There is data for African Americans compared to the three other major subgroups. Collected in 2022 by the Federal Reserve of Chicago, Asian American families of four had an average of $536,000 in overall wealth. For whites, the average was $258,000, $61,600 for Hispanics, and only $44,900 for African Americans. When I was writing this, I sat at my computer and my fingers were frozen. I looked these numbers up again and discovered that many people know a discrepancy exists, but they tend to be unaware of its staggering magnitude and the deep-rooted imbalance, as well as the structural causes behind it. There is a strong correlation between the rate of incarceration and economic standing. In 2021, 901 per 100,000 African Americans were behind bars, 5 times the rate of whites. Popular culture has spread this message for a long time. Sadly, 2 weeks ago, it took his death to recognize this seminal moment from Rob Reiner. Fresh Air rebroadcast this from All in the Family, Reiner, as Michael Meathead Stivic. No, wait a second. I'm sorry, Gloria. I know I promised, but I feel I've got to say this. You know why we've got a breakdown in law and order in this country, Archie? Because we got poverty, real poverty. And you know why we got that? Because guys like you are unwilling to give the black man, the Mexican American, and all other minorities their just and rightful hard-earned share of the American dream. Are we going to step up? Several Unitarian Universalist organizations have joined Rothstein and progressive American author, journalist, and activist Ta-Nehisi Coates and are exploring this issue. So while earlier I was critical of Rothstein, here I am not. The UU values statement says, where there is selfishness, may we bring equity. Equity is not going to be cheap, and of course it's not going to just come from Unitarians. Actually, the U.S., through all its taxes, brings in $5 trillion. A figure that has been suggested is $1 million in reparations to approximately 40 million eligible African Americans. This, I think, would be a boon to our economy. I think the payment is long overdue. I was a VISTA volunteer. Deciding to apply was a key moment. Remember, this is called moments in my life. It led to 6 weeks of training, including a lecture by Columbia University professor Richard Cloward, where I learned about negative income tax. I urge you to check it out. After VISTA training, I was assigned to Garrison Junior High in Baltimore. Initially, I was supposed to get dropouts back into school. Without a car and dealing with open admissions, this was impractical. After 2 frustrating days on the job, I suggested we pivot to the creation of an after-school program. The principal agreed, but he created too many obstacles. He wanted me to confine the program to a classroom. We could not use the gym or playground. A sex education program excited the students until reality set in. The program delivered by the Red Cross was dry, scientific, and did not discuss the social and emotional side of sex. A month before the end of the school year, the Baltimore Teachers Union went on a 2-day strike that ended with a union contract. After the strike, I did not restart the after-school program. Instead, fellow Vistas asked me to organize a citywide fun-in. Kids and their leaders were bused to Druid Hill Park. The day included visiting the zoo, potato sack races, and lunch. For most of the kids, this was their first visit to the city's signature park. Garrison was an open enrollment school. To get to school, some students traveled more than the normal 20 minutes. Parents were told the longer drive was worth it, that their children would receive, not true, a better education. It's been a long time since then, but today, while the nearby high school goes through repairs, Garrison Junior High is closed. Critics raise legitimate concerns that open enrollment schools could worsen inequities for low-income students, strain resources, and place an undue burden on families navigating the transfer process. American education seems to spend a great deal of time contemplating its navel. Even though Finland is rated as having the best educational system in the world, only one U.S. public school is on record following the Finnish model. A key aspect of the program is that pupils remain at their home school where high-performing students team up with students needing help. It's not only about academics. There are social and emotional benefits. In a supportive learning environment, struggling students receive personalized attention. High-achieving mentors reinforce their own knowledge. Racism and classism, as we discussed, are deeply ingrained in our culture. One desirable change would be for students of different ethnic or cultural backgrounds to be paired with one another. Advanced by a well-organized marketing effort, parents would learn the benefits for their children. Saturday schools are an option. That would cost money, and short-sighted people seem to dominate. They don't want to spend oblivious of the fact that such a program could rescue students before they become unproductive adults in the criminal justice system. In discussing pairing strong ones with weak ones, Charlie Lendl, who was supposed to assist me today but is not here, Charlie recently retired from a 20-year career in computer science at Texas A&M, told me that in the middle of his high school years, his family relocated to Nashville. For a full year, he was mistakenly placed in a remedial math class. Surprising to many, in this environment, he flourished. He developed a significant self-esteem while helping struggling students. Many of these students, predominantly African American, were on the football team. When he, of average build, was confronted by bullies, his support system stepped up. Sounds like a win-win to me. During elementary school in the 1950s, my school in Los Angeles was 70% white, 20% Mexican American, and 10% Japanese. Most of the Mexican American students were bilingual with Spanish as their first language. Absent racism, Hispanic students could have received assistance reading English, while white and Japanese could have in return tutored white and Japanese kids in Spanish. Utah-based educator Lisa Trotter Brown wrote in the Journal of Educational Research, substantiating the value of mentors. Her study pursues this issue with third graders. Results indicate that weaker readers using text at 2, 3, and 4 grade levels above their instructional levels, with the assistance of lead readers, other better reading third graders outscored both proficient and less proficient students in the control group across multiple measures of reading achievement. In Houston, the above is impractical, because we have plucked potential mentors from their home schools and transferred them to schools labeled elite. For me, this is not theoretical. I was a mentee. Entering high school, I approached the basketball coach and told him I wanted to learn to shoot a jump shot. He sent me to Gail Goodrich, who said, "Stand by the basket, jump as high as you can. At your apex, shoot. After you make 5 shots in a row, take a step back, do it again and again and again." By coaching me, and of course for no other reason, sure, this is a joke, Goodrich's ego was boosted. The next year, our high school won the LA City Championship. 35 years later, my mother was visiting New York. I flew there to see her, and in a moment of serendipity, discovered that the next day, Goodrich was going to be inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. We went to Springfield for the ceremony. Of course, it was his mentoring moment with me, not 2 NCAA basketball championships at UCLA, or a successful career with the Los Angeles Lakers that included a still record-setting 33 wins that propelled Goodrich to the Basketball Hall of Fame. It was me. Yeah, right. During the installation, his coaching moment with me was not mentioned. Only you know the whole story. Sexism, surprise, surprise, has been rampant in this country, but I'd like to think I had my moment in reducing it. In junior high, my homeroom teacher was Mrs. Giliberto, who taught cooking. I told her, "I want to take your class." "Boys," she said, "must take shop classes. Cooking is exclusively for girls." 5 years later, I wrote a column for the Hearst paper in Los Angeles, the Herald Examiner, and posed the question, why isn't there interscholastic sports for girls? 10 years later, Title IX became the law of the land. It says federal civil rights law prohibits sex-based discrimination in any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. The law ensures equal opportunity for all people regardless of sex in educational settings and applies to students, faculty, and staff. Key areas covered by Title IX include admissions, academic programs, sports, sexual harassment and violence, and retaliation against those who report discrimination. Had it been in place earlier, I could have taken cooking. I was going to end moments involving composer and conductor Leonard Bernstein, Woody Allen, and actor Lee Majors, but I've run out of time. Maybe I'll share those stories another time. We are going to have a sermon talkback today. If you want to discuss the moments I've described, please stay after today's service is over.